from the CBS Bay Area studios, this is KPIX 5 News.
Welcome back. It's 6:30 this morning. Good morning. I'm Devin Fehely.
And I'm Julie Watts. So we'll get started this half hour with a check of our forecast. Now, let's go ahead and take a look outside right now. We'll see gray skies over the bridge this morning and certainly cool temperatures to start off along the coast and by the bay. Temperatures right now at the door in the 50s, pretty much area-wide. San Jose a tad bit warmer this morning in the low 60s. Futurecast shows that fog will pull back to the coast. We will see sunshine most places, likely going to stay a little sucked in directly along the coast. And we will get a bit of a breeze as we head on into the afternoon along the coast and by the bay. But take a look at your weather headlines. Starting off with fog and clouds, it will be hot again inland today, and then a little cooler by the bay and the coast, keeping those clouds around. In terms of fire weather, taking a look at the forecast up near Redding, we're talking 110 degrees, the forecasted high there, hot and windy. Now keep in mind this wind is not necessarily an overall weather pattern, but rather weather that is generated by the fire itself. It is going to be tough conditions for firefighters battling that blaze today. The reason high pressure remains steady over much of Southern California. That's bringing triple-digit heat to folks in Southern California, as well as north in Redding, and then certainly through the Sacramento Valley and the Central Valley today. As we continue on, we are going to see heat continuing over the next couple of days. Now, the latest on the devastating Carr wildfire in Shasta County. 38,000 people have been ordered to evacuate as the fire has caused widespread destruction, even in the city of Redding. Let's take a look now at the latest numbers. The Carr fire is linked to the deaths of 2 firefighters. An estimated 500 structures are destroyed, with thousands of homes still threatened. More than 48,000 acres have burned, and the fire is just 5% contained this morning. 9 people are still unaccounted for. Meanwhile, the National Weather Service has issued a red flag warning for the Redding area through Monday morning. The forecast high temperature, as I mentioned, today and tomorrow, 110 degrees.
We have areas that are still threatened, still evacuated, and we're really at the mercy of some of these winds right now.
3 firefighters from the Marin County Fire Department were also injured fighting this fire. They have burn injuries and they are recovering this morning. Investigators say the Carr fire was caused by a vehicle towing a trailer.
Not everyone who lost their homes lost everything. A news photographer who grew up in the Redding area was surveying the damage in his old neighborhood when he stopped by what was once the home of a childhood friend.
And when I showed up, the CAL FIRE guy came over and he said, "You okay?" And I said, "Yeah, it's just a friend of mine's house that actually burnt down." And he goes, "I took this flag down. This flag was on his flagpole. I was able to save the flag because Zach liked to proudly fly his American flag." So CAL FIRE, one of the firefighters, he handed me the flag.
And here's something that some would consider to be a small miracle also in Redding. A statue of St. Francis managed to survive the flames as the homes around it burned. Now, drone video captured the Carr fire's path of destruction. A neighborhood in Redding reduced to ash and rubble. It is eerily similar to the devastation we saw last year when the Tubbs fire roared through Santa Rosa.
Well, it'll be another week before Yosemite Valley reopens as the Ferguson fire rages on there on the western edge of the park. The park has been closed since Wednesday due to heavy smoke. The flames are also encroaching on some of the park's ancient sequoias. The valley is set to reopen at 4 p.m. next Friday, August 3rd, but visitor services will be limited. And we've learned a firefighter named Jason Campbell was busy battling that Ferguson fire when his own home in Shasta County burned to the ground in the Carr fire. Thankfully, his wife and children made it out unharmed, but they did lose everything. We'll be keeping a close eye on both of these firefights. Stay with KPIX 5 and CBSSF.com for the very latest.
President Trump is taking credit for the economic numbers that were just released. Newly released government data shows the U.S. economy grew 4.1% from April to June. That's the fastest pace in 4 years. The Commerce Department says Americans opened their wallets following last year's tax cuts. Companies are also hiring, but experts warn that the numbers may not be sustainable.
Once again, We are the economic envy of the entire world.
The first thing to do is get our national debt under control and not try to grow the economy with short-term stimulus, which is a sugar high, and then it leads to a crash.
Quarterly growth exceeded 4.1% 4 times while President Obama held office.
Well, Twitter took a steep dive on Wall Street after the San Francisco-based company reported a drop in active users. Twitter's stock plunged more than 20%, wiping out about $5 billion of the company's value. Yesterday was the largest single-day loss for Twitter in 2 years. The sell-off happened after Twitter said its monthly users dropped by 1 million in the second quarter. It also predicted more declines in the next few months. This comes as Twitter is working to purge fake accounts and hate speech. Meanwhile, Facebook stock was down slightly following this week's massive drop. On Thursday, shares took a 19% dive, erasing about $120 billion in Facebook's market value. Now, that was the largest one-day loss in history for a publicly traded company. At the same time, Facebook says it's spending an extra $10 million on CEO's Mark Zuckerberg's security. A filing with the SEC cites specific threats to Zuckerberg's safety. The costs include bodyguard security measures at his homes and his use of a private jet. Now, that $10 million figure amounts to an extra $27,000 a day that Facebook is spending to protect Zuckerberg.
President Trump could soon be seeing more of Russia's Vladimir Putin. The White House saying the president is, quote, open to visiting Moscow next year. The statement came shortly after Putin announced he had invited Trump. Now, earlier this week, the White House postponed a planned trip of the two leaders in Washington, saying it will take place, quote, after the Russia witch hunt is over. The president's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, now says he is willing to cooperate with special counsel Robert Mueller. Cohen reportedly plans to tell Mueller that Trump knew about a June 2016 meeting with a Russian lawyer ahead of time. The president's current lawyer denies that claim.
There's no way you're going to bring down the president of the United States on the testimony uncorroborated of a proven liar.
The president is also denying the claims, tweeting, I did not know of the meeting with my son, Don Jr. The meeting included his oldest son, his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, campaign manager Paul Manafort, and a Russian lawyer. That lawyer reportedly promised dirt on Hillary Clinton. Right now, it's unclear if Mueller will want or need Cohen's information. A construction worker is dead this morning after a trench collapsed around him in a project in Daly City. The North County Fire Authority says the man was trapped by dirt and debris yesterday. Firefighters tried to rescue the worker, but he died at the scene on Martin Street.
To the family, we lost a good friend, a good worker, but a good man. And we work every day to try to avoid these kind of events.
It appears the accident happened as workers were grading the trench to install a concrete drain pipe for a new housing development. Cal OSHA investigators are looking into what happened.
Well, Governor Jerry Brown is proposing a plan to improve emergency services, but it could cost you. He's asking state lawmakers to pass a flat fee on cell phones and landlines capable of contacting 911. The tax is estimated to cost people 34 cents per line per month and is expected to generate at least $175 million a year. The 911 overhaul would modernize the system and allow dispatchers to accept emergency calls, texts, and video. Well, many California workers may soon get a boost in their paychecks. The state Supreme Court just ruled hourly workers must be paid for tasks done off the clock. Now, this is the result of a lawsuit brought by a Starbucks employee. He argued he should be paid for time spent doing things like locking up the store and setting the alarm.
Big plans are underway to reduce pollution at the Port of Oakland. The goal to convert 9,000 trucks from about 500 companies from diesel to zero emission. Yesterday, a steering committee was held to come up with a community action plan.
We're calling this a pathway to zero emissions. So this is going to take millions of dollars, and it's going to take years, maybe decades.
SSA, one of the biggest companies that operate at the port, is reportedly on board with the plan.
Well, it's back to work for the Oakland Raiders. Yesterday, the team took to the practice field for their first full squad practice at training camp. This year's season for the Silver and Black marks the return of head coach John Gruden. During the press conference, he touched on his comeback.
It's a big job,
And I know I got a lot to prove, but I got a great staff and guys that are keeping me updated with the technology and all the things that are changing.
Well, it's been 9 years since he coached an NFL team. He previously coached the Raiders from 1998 to 2001. The team kicks off its preseason on Friday, August 10th.